Good morning, everybody. Today I want to show you how to do a drawing in Autodesk and some of the ways you can annotate that drawing, or the ways you should annotate that drawing. So for this video, I'm going to show you how to make a drawing. I'm going to use this part from a prior assignment for that. So I've got it open, and you don't have to have it open, but I just happen to have it open just to show you what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go up to the eye, and I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to select a drawing. And that's going to open up a standard IDW file. It might even be DWG as a possibility. It's going to open that up, and the default settings are going to show as such. Currently, this sheet is a size C sheet, not a size A. I'm going to recommend, depending on the size of your part, that you use size A or B. But if it's a really large part and you have a lot of detail, you may choose to use size C. Because this part is rather small, I'm going to go ahead and do that with size A. The way I do that is I go over to the sheet and I right-click it. Notice how this particular screen also has very similar layout to when you're designing parts in Autodesk. So I'm going to go to that. I'm going to go to Edit Sheet. And then currently size C is 17 inches by 22 inches, by the way. And then size A is 8.5 by 11. So if we printed 8, and then this is 11 by 17. So B is sort of your middle ground. We do have 8.5 by 11 paper. If you're making posters, we can certainly print those on size A as well. Now you'll get a title block. You can choose to keep this title block, or you can choose to edit this title block. If you wish to edit it, you have to just again go over here to this, and you can You can edit the field text. You can input what's different in there. Right now, it just uses the date and my login username on here. But you can right-click this, and you can actually change what's in there as well. So if I want to change the author, I can change the name of that as well. So the nuts and bolts about what you're going to do in here, however, is by placing views and then dimensioning those views, you're going to be communicating to somebody the attributes of your parts. Remember, I showed you those drawings that were printed out from my binder last class. So the way I do that is I go to Base. So in the top right corner here, the first ribbon that you start with is called Place Views. And I'm going to place a base view of the part. Now, since I have the part open, it automatically selects the part I have open, but you can certainly either choose another one that's already open, or you can browse for another file. Okay, so I'm using that, and currently, if I kind of move off of this window, I can see that that's the current view that I would be placing. That is technically the front view that I'm going to that's going to be the front view that I'm going to be using for this part. So what I like to do is I like to place the view on the sheet. By clicking on the sheet, it'll close the window automatically. And then right-click, and I press OK. I can then later take this view and move it over here. So since this is my front view, I'm going to put it in the bottom left area of my sheet. Now, base view is the base view. Notice how it automatically draws the hidden lines in the part as well, which is great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what are called projected views. So right now, the front view obviously is not enough to show the entire detail of the part, but if I go to projected view, I can then use this base view, and I can sketch automatically aligned views elsewhere on here. So I can actually use this to draw a right view, a top view, and I also can draw an isometric view. I'll put that over here. And then once I'm done, I right-click, and I press Create. And then there, it's now sketched the parts itself. So I got a top view, I got a front view, I got a right view. Now if I want, I can change the scale of any of these views as well. I've already placed these views, so if I go to the browser bar and I right-click and I select Edit View, you also have some options on the bottom. Right now it's a 1-to-1 scale, so since the part, I believe it's a couple inches long as it is, but let's say I want to make it bigger. I can actually go 2-to-1, right? And if I go 2-to-1, that will make this view and the projected views a lot bigger. Now, as it goes off the sheet, obviously, I don't want to keep that, but I just want to show you that you can do that. Maybe 1.5-to-1 would be fine with that. So let's try that. So 1.5-to-1, same thing. If I want to make it smaller, I can do 1-to-2, 1-to-3, and I can make the view go down in size. All right, so that one here, I can do that. The other things that you could do, I'll show you a couple other things that you're going to want to do in your drawings. This part's pretty easy, but I'll show you a couple of views you may want to use also in your drawings. So what I'm going to do also, what you have to do in your drawings is you have to also add dimensions to them. So that way the user knows what the dimensions are. Now obviously everybody's got different parts, everybody's doing different projects, so ultimately you have to ask yourself when you're doing the drawings is there a way for the user to see the dimensions of all the aspects of the part that you're putting on the page? If the answer is no, that means you need to add dimensions to it. So obviously right now you have no idea how big this part is or even what the scale is. So the way we go to dimensions is we switch ribbons. We're going to switch to the annotate ribbon, which is this ribbon right next to place views. And the most frequent tool you'll be using in this ribbon is the dimension tool. You can use a couple of other dimensioning tools, like for example this chain dimension, which has mixed results from time to time. If I choose to use that, I can do this, for example. I can select these parts right here, right click, continue, and then it can create a chain of dimensions. So I could do that, right? That's a possibility. It does violate one of my rules of needing overall dimension instead of using this. So instead of using this 1.25, I would rather use another dimension. So I could do that if I want to. I also could do a change set if I want to. I'm going to skip that for now, though. Now, if I want to do regular dimensions, I can just click 2 lines. And notice the dimensions are automatically placed for you. You don't have to actually, and you can use OK. We're going to ignore tolerance for now. Right, and you can press OK, and then notice that those dimensions are now in the drawing. And again, you don't have to type those dimensions in; they are configured automatically from the part. So if you get a dimension and it's not what it's supposed to be, that means you need to go back to your part and change it. Okay, you would of course be adding dimensions to this until you have answered the question of is there a way to tell how big everything is in the part, and then you'd be fine. Now, what if you have let's say you have a part where there's an area of your part that has a lot of information, a lot of dimensions to it, okay? If there is, then what you need to do is you need to most likely consider using a detail view. So I'll show you how to do that right here. Let's say, for some reason, I really wanted to zoom in on this part right here on my right view. So I can go to my place views, and I can select detail view. And if I go here, and this is the view I want, I can then, oops, sorry. If this is the part I want, I can then say we're going to go 2 to 1, we're going to do that, and then I have to sketch the part. Hello, there it is. I forgot to click and drag. All right, there it is. So let's say I want to zoom in on that part right here, and I put it up here, and then it creates the detail view from that. Okay, so if I really wanted to zoom in on any particular part, and you can do a 3 to 1 scale, 5 to 1 scale, and then you can dimension that just like anything as well. And then see here, this note here says this is detail view A, and then here's the zoomed in version of that. Another view you may choose to use is what's called a section view. You may choose to show the interior of your part for whatever reason. This part here really doesn't need too much interior showing here, but I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this view so I can show you what not view. Yeah, I'll use this one. All right, so I want to do a section view. What I do is I click the view, and then I'm going to select my view, and then I'm going to draw a cutting plane. All right, so this is my cutting plane. Right-click, continue, and then from here, I can create a section view, which basically would be the interior of the part. So see, remember, we know these lines here, these slanted lines indicate that that's the inside of the part. So I can create section views if I want to show any details about what's inside the part as well, if any of you have need for that. The last view that you may need that I haven't seen too many people need it, but the last view you may need is what's called an auxiliary view. If you have a sloped edge that has details or things on it that are difficult to dimension, you can choose to use an auxiliary view. This part here doesn't really have anything that would be worthy of auxiliary views, so it's kind of hard to show you what you would do maybe on this surface right here, maybe on this surface right here, say like that. But this part here doesn't really have any sloped edges that you would otherwise need an auxiliary view for. But if you have something that's on an angle and it's got features that have dimensions, an auxiliary view might be a choice that you can do. So if you end up coming to that, I can help you live with that. All right, so anyway, that is how you're going to be placing views on here. Now, when you do these drawings, you're going to want to place as many views that are needed. So you may choose top, front, right is sufficient. You may think that top and front are okay. If you have something cylindrical, you may only need 2 views as an example. Sorry. But generally, top, front, and right views are going to be what you'll need to place on your drawings, and then an isometric view. Never add dimensions to the isometric view. Make sure the dimensions are always on the orthographic projections. Okay, and if you need to use a different sheet size because you want to add more views or if you want to add more dimensions, go ahead and do so. Don't feel like you have to use 8.5 by 11 unless you choose to do that. All right. So that's how to create drawings on here. So when you get to that part, you can do the drawings as long as you have the parts. And then later, I'm going to show also how to do an explosion and how to do a drawing of that explosion, which you would need an assembly for, but we'll get there, okay? All right, thanks for watching and have a great day.